As we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Yeah.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Welcome to live radio. Eric, are you with us? Is Eric live on the phone? No. Okay, so it's live. Tom and I today. Happy Thursday. Beautiful day in the Inland Empire. Perfect weather. Can we really say it's a perfect weather?
Oh,
it's not hot. It's not cold. Mountains are good.
I'll give you a perfect. There's clouds in the sky.
But it's not raining. It's not raining. We have a great show today. We have two guests in our studio, so it's going to be a great show today. We also, we've been talking a lot about the government and pretty much politics. We've been talking about what U-Turn has in plans, as well as the branding group. You can find all of those shows on uturnradio.com. Today we have an amazing show because today we are interviewing two business owners operating here in the Inland Empire as we discussed what effects the local government has on their local business. We have Junior from Time to Taco, and we have also Ernie from Downtown Fades in Upland, right?
In Upland.
In
yes.
Upland. So we're going to be talking about, is government helping local businesses? And this is local government. Is it helping local businesses? Is it hurting? Or is it invisible? Also here at U-Turn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small governments. So why don't you tell them about the big-hearted community that we believe in?
Yeah, we have two-pronged mission, big-hearted communities and small governments. And so for big-hearted communities, what we offer is any listener that calls in during the show, we do a little spin for charity.
Okay.
And wherever the wheel ends up, U-Turn Radio will donate to their favorite charity on their behalf.
Nice.
So
awesome.
That's kind of the big-hearted community part of it. As a small government, we are proponent for government just kind of getting off the backs of folks like you that are out, grinding and trying to make a living.
Nice. Excellent.
So welcome to U-Turn Radio. Thank you guys for being here with us. And the phone number that you can call to spin for charity or just to have a comment, or even if you're a business owner and you want to be part of our conversation, you can call in 909-792-5222. That's 909-792-5222. So we were looking and we did some research and we learned that to live in California, it's really, really expensive. 53% of those living in California are considering leaving the state, and there are certainly lots of reasons to hit the road and never look back because it's so expensive out here. So now I can only imagine trying to begin and start a business out here in California in general. That's
right, and I'll bet neither of these two gentlemen are interested in leaving the state. Is that accurate or no?
You know what? I've considered it. There's been opportunities. I have relatives who have actually moved to Texas and Arizona, other states, and most of them are better off than they are in California.
Yeah.
The reason why I haven't done it, I've been in business for almost 10 years now. So for me, it doesn't make sense to start from the bottom just because I've seen an increase in business over the last 5 years. Had I have known this 5 years prior to this when business was still fairly slow, I think I would have done it.
Oh, right. Okay.
But this whole time you've been here in the Inland Empire, or you've been in a different county?
No, the whole time I've been in the Inland Empire.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in LA County, moved to the Inland Empire, and decided to start business here just because I thought it was a growing community, which it is. It is. I feel, unfortunately, though, a lot of the cities within the Inland Empire still don't want that growth, which is a little disappointing because there could be a lot of growth, a lot of potential. A lot of us come out here with that same idea that you could definitely grow business out here just because there isn't as much competition as you would in LA County or Orange County.
All right. So you obviously operate a food truck.
Yes.
And you cater to parties, to pretty much anything. Mm-hmm. Time to Taco. So talk about what made you go into this business?
We actually started off as a meat market, a local neighborhood meat market, which we still have the storefront for. Now it's used as a preparation kitchen for our catering events. But when we were doing that, it was just it was an idea. Just we jumped into it, like you guys were mentioning. Hey, no experience into it. Let's give it a try, and it took off. It was a family and a few friends that wanted to try it, and it really took off. It boomed from there, and now we decided to actually shut down the meat market and just keep going with the catering. We never imagined it'd grow this big.
Well,
that's really good. That's really cool. And then, Ernie, you have Downtown Fades.
Yes.
How did you get into the barbershop business?
It started pretty much with my sister, Bertha. She went into cosmetology, and she's pretty much would cut her hair because her parents didn't really have enough money. And it didn't look very great. So slowly I started just cutting it myself, And then
Without school, like this is.
no, yeah, this is. I'm talking about. I'm like 15 years old.
Oh, okay.
So after she'd cut my hair, I just go in the restroom and try to do some adjustments, but it pretty much made it worse. And then as the time went on, I started getting better and better, and figured out along the way that I had a talent, and I started cutting hair. And I said maybe someday I'll have my own shop. So I've been in business. Just started about 8 months ago, so I'm fairly new.
Okay.
Fairly new to it.
So that's your experience growing up, Bertha cutting. Long story short, I know Ernie's sister, Bertha, we used to work together doing makeup. So she used to kind of mess up your hair.
Yeah, not on purpose, but.
But right, you got to begin somewhere with anything you do. However, what made you, so you've been in business 8 months.
8 months, yes, I'm fresh.
So what made you say, like, you know what, I'm just going to open my barbershop? Because it could be easier to go and work at a barbershop and maybe like easier. Rent a spot.
It's a lot easier because when you're just a barber, you just go in, cut hair, and leave.
Right.
And then you continue with your day. But now that I'm actually an owner, it never stops. You're constantly just working. Everybody goes home and you're just thinking about what can I do next. To improve the business. But I've been doing it for about 17 years. And then I was running other people's businesses, and then I just decided, whenever I have the chance, I'm going to go ahead and just do it for myself,
Yeah. Starting a business can be a little challenging. What was one of the things that you learned, like, as soon as you start opening, like maybe registering a name, that type of stuff, where you had to start dealing with the city? How was that process for you?
It was difficult. It was difficult, and it was a struggle because you go and you have to, like you said, register the name. Have to make sure the name is okay for you to use. There's all kinds of planning. What are you gonna use chemicals? Are you gonna, pretty much how you're gonna operate? And there's a lot of requirements. And the thing about it is when you're just going through the process, like they already expect money. You already have to put money, just to fill out paperwork, and you don't even know if you're really gonna get the spot or not. And you're already paying hundreds of dollars.
And when you say the spot, like when you find your location and you're like, okay, I think this is going to be.
Yeah. So I find a location, and now you deal with the lease company, and then also with the city, and then other requirements, But in the start of that process, they already expect money, so it's tough.
Order of magnitude, how much did you have to spend to open the door on the first day?
Well, just for the paperwork for the city, I start off with the $700, payment, and then about $3,000 for the building, and then to get all my supplies. So roughly about $7,000 to $8,000 just to start off.
Just paperwork and just business.
Paint, flooring, because the place had carpet, and you're responsible for all that.
Oh, wow, all the inside stuff. Yeah. So now, for you, Junior, having Time to Taco, your business truck and catering, it's a whole different world, I can only imagine, because it's not like you're at an actual location. How does that work for you, and how did you start? When you started, how did that work with Time to Taco, the truck?
It was a challenge, to say the least. When we opened up the storefront, which was a meat market, we pulled the permits. At that time, Jurupa Valley, which is where we're located, was in the process of becoming its own city. They had not done so yet, so we had to go and do all of our tenant improvements with the county of Riverside, which we did. And just like Ernie mentioned, I know the first thing they asked for is money. We had to put down a check for about $1,700, and that was just a deposit.
wow.
So that's not even guaranteed that that's all you're going to have to pay.
Right.
They tell you if there's any money left over, you'll get it back, which you really don't. There's never any money left over from my experience, at least. And we went through the process. We contacted Building and Safety, got that cleared through them. Then we're told you've got to go through the fire department. We go through the fire department, same deal. You've got to submit blueprints to them, which has a cost for them to look them over, and it takes at least 3 weeks for them to review them. Then they come back. If they have any corrections, you still have to wait longer. And all this time, just like you mentioned, you're paying lease on there. Your landlord's not going to forgive that month's rent.
Right.
So finally, when it came about to go into the health department, we thought we were ready for the inspection. We spent thousands of dollars on flooring, sinks, stainless steel walls. And at the end, they come back and they ask for a grease interceptor, which I at the time had no idea what a grease interceptor was. They tell us that it's something that the water department requires. So basically, anytime you own a restaurant or a meat market, anything that has to do with food or grease, it's got to be filtered. All your sinks go through the sewer. They don't go straight to the sewer. So all your plumbing goes to the grease interceptor. All the fats, the greases are caught there, and then the water flows out to the city sewers, obviously so they don't get clogged up. But we weren't told of that. So I fought the water department for it. I fought the health department for it. Took months while we're paying rent for it. And all we got was an "I'm sorry, I forgot." And that was a $13,000 job after we had already put in about $2,000 worth of flooring into the business. So we had to break that down, then do the grease interceptor. And it was very demoralizing. It was very upsetting because as a small business, you don't have a huge amount of capital to start with. So when someone who's in a position that I feel should know their job in and out tells you, "I'm sorry, I forgot," to me, that wasn't a valid excuse for a $13,000 expense.
Right. In the real world, that would be malpractice.
No.
And I felt like it was. And I did consult an attorney. About that. And the issue that I was told was, and it makes sense, I was told that no attorney would basically want to take on a case against the county in which they work for, which makes sense in a way to me. I was surprised to hear that answer, but in hindsight, it made sense. So that was the meat market aspect of it. From then, when we moved on to the food truck, I thought I had learned my lesson. I said I better talk to everyone's supervisor.
Right,
I better check all the details on it. So I find out that the county of Riverside started allowing food trucks as of 2014. I go and do my homework. I find out exactly what the requirements are for the food truck to pass inspection. We do that. We found out you've got to get your tanks tested so you can make sure there's no bacteria, no E. coli in them. That's about $100. You go and you submit plans for the food truck, which was about another $750. And the blueprints itself will cost you about $600. And those $750, which I thought the county was going to take as a plan check, that does not go into your permit. Once that gets approved, you still owe them about another $800 for your permit. So we pay all this, and I'm finally thinking, okay, we got it taken care of. We're going to start operating, because to me, a permit within the county means you can literally operate everywhere within the county.
Right.
But boy, was I wrong with that.
Because you're a moving vehicle, obviously.
You're moving. So we've got our permit through the county. We pass our health inspection, and I operate out of Harupa Valley. I park in Harupa Valley, start doing business, and then, of course, we have code enforcement come by asking us for our permits. We show them our county permit, and they tell us that's not valid for them. That's a county. They're the city of Harupa Valley. You've got to have a permit through them. So my idea was, well, here it goes. We're going to have to pay another permit, but at least we're going to comply and get things done properly. Well, the issue was they don't give any permits. So I go in Eastville, Harupa Valley, Corona. I even went down to the city of Riverside. They don't allow food trucks. So the county sells you a permit that essentially you couldn't operate anywhere within the cities.
No way!
Oh, I couldn't believe myself. My whole thought was, here it goes. I thought I did my homework on this one.
So, wow. So you get a permit from the county so you could go out in the unincorporated area out in the desert somewhere where
exactly, where there's no one there. So my idea is, who are you going to sell food to out there?
Yeah, there's not even like a club where it would come out and like sell stuff.
There was nothing. So I take it up, and when I brought it up to the city of Harupa Valley, because my main interest was operating in Harupa Valley. We had already been in business at this point for about 5 years, and we had built up relationships with people in the community. It's a very small community, close-knit community, and we had a lot of support. We had a lot of support from the people there, so we wanted to stay in that area. When Harupa Valley was a little negative about it, where they didn't want us to come in, I questioned it, and we got support. We got a lot of people within the community to sign off on petitions. We went to a lot of the city council meetings, asked for hearings, and it was a learning experience for me because I got to know how our government works. Doesn't necessarily work quickly, but it works to a point.
Right.
And after a couple of years of going back and forth with the city, we finally got the support, and we got them to pass an ordinance that allows food trucks. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're maybe one or two of the only cities in the county at the point that will allow you to operate a food truck as long as you comply with all the requirements.
Wow, okay.
And after paying thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah. And after literally having an investment, a large investment, sitting in my garage for about 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So now for you, Ernie, describe government regulations that make it hard to do like your regular day in and day out business. Like what would be an example?
Well, for example, like the city of Upland, after paying all this money to get started, I'm a new business, so no one knows really I'm there. I still have to invest in signs and graphics for the windows, etc. And then, I have a barber flag that I purchased to put outside, so that way people can see it when they're driving by. Code enforcement drives by and says, "Hey, you can't have that." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" And they said, "Because it's a distraction to, the drivers." And so then I started thinking, like, well, how am I supposed to, get my shop out there, let people know that we're here, there's a barber shop here.
Right.
And so things like that, and if you want to do any type of advertisement, you have to go through them. And you go through them, and obviously it costs money. So they expect money, they want money.
So there's no way of you trying to do your own marketing within your own building or
no,
space?
not even in front of my in front of my business, like not on the city sidewalk, but like on my planner, it's still not allowed.
My question is, where do you find all these rules and regulations before opening a business? Is there like a place where you're like, let me read this whole thing? I almost feel like you have to become a lawyer to really understand what you're doing.
It's all buried in whatever governing ordinance, and you have to start with the city that you're working in, and then once you understand those, you got to make sure you're meeting the county.
Right.
You got to make sure you're meeting the state, and throwing some federals in there, it's like you said, you kind of have to be a lawyer to get things going.
For sure.
And I think most guys learn kind of like you do by bumping into stuff and finding stuff out.
And I just felt that they should probably at least give you a certain amount of time to advertise, to be able to do that. Not necessarily just not allow you at all, but at least give you a couple months or.
Right. That makes sense, especially when you're new.
Yeah, you're a new business.
To the block, to the neighborhood.
Yeah, no one knows you're there.
Right. Junior, what about you? What government regulations that make it hard for your business on a regular basis?
Well, for us in the food industry, the health department is who you deal with, which it's great as a consumer. They are very strict. They do know what they're doing. And for me personally, I have no issue with them coming in and regulating us as far as the inspection goes, making sure everything's properly cooked, sanitized. What I do have an issue with, though, is a lot of the city code enforcement officers, because I feel that, first of all, when you're in that position, you should have a certain way of carrying yourself. And I've had issues with a couple of the inspectors at Harupa Valley. Some of them just come out there and they're flat out rude to you. They're
Really?
flat out rude. They'll come in. There's a way you can come in. You can greet someone. You can ask to see their permit. But when they come in and they automatically assume that you're breaking the law and you've got customers right in front of you, to me that's not the way you conduct things. I mean, I think we were all taught manners when we were kids, right? You come in, you greet someone, you ask properly, and sometimes I feel like they forget that. They feel like you still owe them something. I feel like it's not enough that you're paying your permits and your fees. They still feel like you owe them something. And I can tell you from the start, it seems like they pester the people who try to comply and they try to do things the proper way, because we all see it. You drive anywhere, you see people selling on the streets. They don't have permits, which I personally don't have an issue with it. I mean, I know people have to make ends meet. But it just feels like when they should be complying and enforcing the regulations, they choose not to. They choose to go the other way.
Right. It's almost like you have to like break rules and stuff and be like a rebel and be there like the whole time, and they're like, okay, he's a rebel, let's not mess with him. And then when you're like, no, let me do everything right and proper, they're like, no, you gotta bring it back.
Yeah, you do.
What are like government regulations that help your business though? For you, Junior, for the food stuff.
I mean, for the food, I know the fact that the county of Riverside did pass the ordinance to allow food trucks. That was huge. Mm-hmm. That was huge for us. So it was great. In the beginning, I know it was tough because I feel like they passed the ordinance, but not everyone was properly trained, especially when it came to pulling the permits. When I went and applied for it at the health department, I, in a sense, felt like I was basically their experiment because we were one of the few to come in and apply for it. So I could tell that even some of the inspectors weren't quite sure what they were looking for when they were inspecting the food truck, because it's completely different from inspecting an actual building or a restaurant. So they were learning on the spot like we were. Same thing with the city. When the city adopted the ordinance, which they finally adopted after a couple of years of going back and forth, it was great. It was great to finally be able to operate and conduct business properly. And to me, it made no sense that they wouldn't want to do it because there's food vendors everywhere. There's legal food vendors. Yeah. It's costing them money to have the sheriff's department come out there, because I know for a fact anytime the health department comes in, especially on the weekends, they can't do it alone. They've got to have the sheriff department coming out there. So that's obviously costing them money. To me, it made no sense that they wouldn't want to enact these ordinances, and even some of the other cities, because it is revenue that's coming into their cities. There's large amounts of revenue that they could be making from permits and taxes coming in.
I mean, I couldn't keep track of all the money that you talked about, the permits alone. So that alone, I mean, and I'm sure that you have to do certain permits yearly? Yearly. So I know for us in the food truck, yearly it's about $800 for the health department. That's the county health department. Within the city of Jurupa Valley, that permit is, I believe, $220 a year to renew. But at that point, these are renewals. When you start off, you've got to pay your plant check fees, and that's obviously a lot more expensive. What about for you, Ernie?
Well, I think that one of the benefits that might help me is that the city allows me to participate in local events that the city has. So where I'm located, I'm right across the street from downtown Upland. So they have a lot of like lemon festivals and farmer markets and stuff like that. So they'll allow me to participate and go. I could set up a booth. So that gives me time to throw myself out there to the community, the local people that live around there. So I mean, that's pretty much like a benefit that I have
as far as working with government. All right, so we're going to cut into a commercial break. We're going to come back with more U-Turn. Is local government helping local businesses? More on U-Turn.
We'll be right back to U-Turn after this commercial break. Don't go away.
Meet a friend, fall in love, save a life. Yucaipa Animal Placement Society is a non-profit pet rescue facility for cats and dogs. Come and meet the wonderful homeless pets and be the person that makes all the difference to a pet in need. For more info, call 909-790-1440 or visit their website, yaps.org. That's yaps.org. Support the San Bernardino City Mission. Your donations help feed the hungry, provide used clothing for low-income families, provide access to housing and rehabilitation for the homeless, and help all who come to them for help. The mission provides a personalized assistance program for homeless men and homeless women and children. They help get less fortunate off the streets, place them in safe shelters, and get them back on their feet. Last month, the community helped provide over 7,400 meals and provided nearly 2,000 pieces of clothing, as well as almost 180 hygiene kits, which were provided for the needy. San Bernardino City Mission goes above and beyond, though, providing personal counsel, prayer, and a devotion time to encourage those in need in their spiritual life. So listen up, everyone. For a donation of just $1.57, you can feed a hungry person right here in San Bernardino. $15.70 will feed 10 people, and $157 will feed 100 hurting men, women, and children. If you're interested in helping and want to know more additional information, you can go to sanbernardinoscitymission.org or call 909-649-0011. 909-649-0011. The San Bernardino City Mission, feeding the hungry, helping the homeless. That number again, 909-649-0011. Or visit them online, sanbernardinoscitymission.org.
Music changing lives, making dreams come true.
If we can focus on it, so can you.
Fly higher than the sky, leave your mark on the moon.
Nothing is impossible, let the music guide you.
We are Music Changing Lives.
How would you feel if you had to make a choice between buying food or spending your fixed income on life-saving medicine? No one should make that trade-off, but many low-income seniors are forced into difficult decisions like this every day. Smiles for Seniors Foundation provides energy assistance and safety net services to struggling low-income seniors in the Inland Empire. They provide one-time assistance to seniors to meet specific financial needs. They've helped with food, housing, utility payments, minor home and auto repairs, along with life-saving prescriptions or medical equipment. A nonprofit foundation funded entirely by donations from local organizations. Smiles for Seniors receives no funding from the state or federal government. They are funded by local businesses and individuals like you with big hearts and willing wallets. You can find more information or to donate to Smile for Seniors at 909-790-6671. That's 909-790-6671, or visit smilesforseniorsfoundation.org. That's smilesforseniorsfoundation.org.
Tom, Nadia, and Eric are back with more only on the U-Turn radio show right here on KCAA.
Welcome back to U-Turn Radio. Today we have a great show. We're talking about local businesses and how local government, if it's helping or if it's not helping. And so far we've learned how expensive it is to open a business, how many permits you have to pull, especially if you're somebody like our guest, Junior, Time to Taco, with food stuff is crazy.
It is.
And we also have Ernie from Downtown Fades, and we're also learning what it is like to open a barbershop. He's new in Upland, so you can definitely go and check him out. And then you could go to timetotaco.com to check out Junior's tacos and what he offers, because there's a lot of good food that I saw there. So anyways, before the show we were talking about permits. What do you guys think would happen if certain regulations were removed from your business? Like, would it help, or which one would it be to help your business? Like, you're like, man, that was really not needed, or that one's not useful at all.
I think for me, if we could have one permit apply for all the cities within the county, that would be very helpful. Because I know as far as a food truck goes, some cities don't allow you to operate flat out. But on the catering side of our business, where we come in and we cater private properties, all the cities which we go into require a license and a permit through that city. So I find myself literally with a wall full of permits from all the cities that we go to, and sometimes it's not so much the cost, because some of them are very reasonable. If you're coming in there for one day, maybe about $10, $15, which is reasonable. But to me, I feel like that paperwork side of the business takes away from my production. I love what I do, and I'd much rather be out there catering, networking, meeting people, instead of literally stuck running errands all day, filing paperwork just to pull a permit, which is going to cost $10. I feel that if we had one permit that was valid throughout the whole county, that would be great for a lot of us food vendors.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is that there's no consideration, I think, on the government side of the cost that it costs you guys to come get a permit. It's like, okay, I'll give you my $10 for my permit, but now here's the bill for my time that it takes me to get it out of you guys. And that's,
it does. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because we catered a wedding in Barstow at the Harvey House not too long ago, which is a great place, very historic. And I found out we needed to apply for it. Well, I found out I couldn't do it online. So I'm stuck here in Napa Valley, and I've got to drive out to Barstow. It literally took me the whole day to get there and back. Lost the whole day of work. Had to pay someone else to do work that I could have done, which, not to say that you don't you don't want to pay someone an extra salary. But when you're a small business, sometimes it's
That's
tough to
huge.
keep up with all the expenses, especially if you're a business where you're an owner-operator. And, I mean, it was ridiculous. On the way back, I was laughing because that permit cost maybe $25, but it cost me $65 in diesel to get there and back.
Yeah.
So it really
That
made no
plus the
sense.
time.
Plus
Plus
the
your time,
time.
yeah.
Plus the time. So
Yeah.
it made no sense to me. I mean, but it's just, you learn to deal with it. You definitely want to comply. You want to make sure that you're complying with those regulations. It just, I feel it'd be a lot easier if there was one permit you renew yearly and you're good for the entire year.
And
Right.
for the whole county. What about for you, Ernie? Is there something that you're like, man? If
Well,
we were to-
I agree with Junior. If they made it just a one-time deal where you pay all your fees and you get all your paperwork and they let you go on and just, start off, especially somebody like myself that I never had a business before. And then I started by myself. And then, so I opened up shop. And then I still have to go to the city and do paperwork, so I have to lock up my business because I don't have any employees. I
Right.
don't have anybody to watch it, so that takes time. And then for that one person that drove by and saw my shop and stopped, I wasn't there. I'm losing out on that,
Yeah.
and no one pays you back for that.
Right.
That's that's already money and customers that you've already lost.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine.
Let me float a question for you. I mean, I'm obviously, Junior, you deal with the health department. Ernie, I'm assuming you probably have some issues with the health department. But let's say I was king for the day and I said, okay, most if not all of the health regulations that you have to comply with, I'm actually going to throw those in the trash. So you don't have to comply with those regulations if you don't want to. I mean, I'm not proposing it. This is a theoretical thing. So now as a business owner, you're operating in this world where, hey, I could not comply, but what's the cost to my business if I don't comply with a healthy approach to food?
Well, I mean, I know for me in the food industry, I don't have an issue with the health department being as strict as they are because I see it as a consumer as well. I go out and eat at restaurants all the time. You definitely want to make sure that they're using a certain level of hygiene to what they're preparing, and you do want to make sure that they're compliant to the proper temperatures because none of us want to get food poisoning. I'm sure we've all had it at one point in our life, and it's definitely not fun.
Right.
So from that aspect, and I also know for my business, the fact that we do have a health department permit and we do comply with the regulations, it's actually a great point because we cater at a lot of universities, we do cater at churches and different buildings that are a part of the government. We've actually catered for the county. We were lucky enough to cater their employee party for the holidays. And that's the main thing they ask for. They definitely want to make sure that they're hiring someone with a proper license and someone who's got proper certification to do it. So for our business, I feel that the fact that we do have a certificate from the health department is actually beneficial. The fact that the cities want their own permits and the way it is enforced, that's the problem. I think it could be done differently.
Yeah, I think my point there is, if there are no regulations and you still want to provide food, it's going to be a cost to your business if you provide food that makes people sick. You're going to go out of business like really fast. You know what I'm saying? Your reputation's going to be gone. So I'm certain. So the point is, I think the market can do a really good job of regulating bad health out of the market because, especially with social media now, it's like, don't go to that place. They make you sick.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I know for us, a part of the requirement to also get your health department permit is that same deal, food poisoning. They want to make sure that the county is not liable for it. So in order for you to be able to get a permit for a food truck, you've got to have general business liability insurance for at least $1 million in coverage. So the county just wants to make sure they aren't liable. They gave you a permit, but it's like, hey, you know what? They're the ones that are responsible. Don't come after the county. And to me, it's peace of mind as a business owner. It is peace of mind because you do know that if there is an instance where knock on wood, you have a lawsuit, then it's going to be something that's more than likely going to put you out of business. And just the fact that you do have that insurance is peace of mind, but it's also not cheap. Insurance is never cheap when you're looking at a coverage for $1 million.
Yeah, no, and that's an interesting point that you get a permit from the county, but you can't sue the county.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
You get sued.
Well, even what we learned, it's that even if you were to hire a lawyer that works in that county, they don't want to go against the county. Yeah. What about for you, Ernie? What are things that you would say, like if government were to take this away from a barbershop business, this would work a lot better because it's not needed?
It would help, but then, you know, for my business, I still have it's called the State Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, which that's another group that comes in and makes sure that the business is clean, and they come in and really ready to write you up. From as simple as a piece of paper being on the floor, I could bring you up to $1,000.
$1,000 fee for that?
Yes. They go around checking, making sure you have licensed barbers, that everything's sanitary, that nothing's dirty, because you deal with bacterias and people, you deal with contact with people, so you have to be really, really clean. So, I mean, it would help from if the city would make it a little easier, but then I still have the state board, Sacramento, which that's another.
So you get inspections from a state board inspector and inspections from a city inspector. You see anybody from the county also, or is it
no, not much.
Okay.
The county, no, not really, but it's mainly the city does the whole beginning part of it, and then after you're done with that, state board comes in and they take over.
Okay.
And these inspections, they happen whenever, like it's not like they're going to give you.
No, they
random for both.
They don't call you and say, hey, we're coming in, so try to make sure, because we don't want to give you too many fees.
Right.
They come in, as soon as they walk in, they start taking pictures. That's what they do. They take pictures of you, and they check your ID, make sure that you're the person operating under that license, and they go around and check everything.
And the reason they do that is it's generating funding for their organization.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, if I can find, a piece of paper on the floor.
Yeah, no, definitely.
man.
If there's hair inside your station, like everything has to be like really clean. You have to have tools that are pretty much, you don't really use them, and you have your tools that you use throughout the day. So you have to have pretty much 2 sets of tools.
That's
everything
funny.
has to be labeled and.
Wait, so let me get this. You got your working tools, and then you got your inspection tools.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. We used to do that.
Because that's at the moment you're using that, so it's considered dirty, and then you have your clean tools.
So, I mean, if you were to get another customer, then that's why you would need the second pair of sets.
Yes, because everything has to be disinfected after each customer. You have to disinfect every tool you use, and then you're supposed to use a different comb that I used on, say, for instance, if I used it on Junior, I got to get another comb for the next customer.
All right.
So they go around really looking around and trying to find
anything that they can, and that can be easy. $1,000 for.
Oh yeah.
Like it starts at $1,000, or it could go.
It could come as simple as a comb. They saw hair on a comb. That would be $300, $200.
So depending on what they find, that's how they fine you. Depending on.
And they could leave there and leave you with the $5,000 bill, and then they'll come back. And then once you've already been targeted once and considered as a dirty shop or something like that, they'll just keep coming back, and they just keep coming back.
Oh wow! What about for you, Junior? What are the fees like, depending on what they find?
Well, I know with food, it's a little different.
Okay.
If it's something minor, it can be somewhere from $100 to $200. With food, if it's something major, where you have a major violation, whether it be, I know one of the biggest violations that they will shut down a food facility for is any kind of pest infestation.
Mm.
So something like that, it's not even a fact where they fine you; they just automatically shut you down. And I know that's normally the process, but the fees for things like that aren't really too ridiculous. If you're a repeat offender, then yes. If you have people working without their food handler cards, and they'll gradually increase. They can go from $100, $200 second time. Third time, they may just revoke your license if you just do not comply with it. But they're more of if it's something extreme, they shut you down. They don't even deal with the fees at that point.
Which is something else that you definitely have to be careful with as far as losing your license, because once you lose your license, it's like you can't run your business, right?
No, you can't. You can't. And I know with the health department, once if you ever have a bad track with them, they they will not allow you to pull another license if you keep being a repeat offender.
Wow. So here's a different type of question. If you guys were elected to be city council, what would you do to improve business opportunity in your community?
I think if I was elected, and it's funny you say, because I've been to a lot of the city council meetings. I think they need to be open-minded. They need to be open-minded to change. From my experience with a lot of the city council members that I saw, a lot of them don't want to move away from the brick and mortar type of business. They don't see that. They don't see the mobile vending, which in all honesty, we all shop online. That was something that my grandpa would never understand. That if I pitch it to my grandpa, hey, buy this online, he's going to think I'm crazy. But it's something that I think they should be open-minded. I would definitely be open-minded to businesses, because I think there's a lot of people who have the potential to grow, have the opportunity to grow, and if we could do any type of funding that would assist people that want to come in, because just to have the initial capital, it's not easy. So if the cities could do something where they would help you with some kind of incentive, some kind of loan, I think it'd be a lot of help to a lot of people out there who have great ideas but just don't have the money necessary to get it started.
Right.
You know, there's an interesting thing that I saw there. The city council needs to, they need to think about ways to do things better, right? Ernie started off the show with saying, man, I work all day, but then I sit and I think about how can I do this better? How can I, which if you ask me is a great snapshot of the difference between the government sector and the private sector. Private sector's out, how can I make it this better? And government is just like, hey, let's, we got our book, let's stick to our book and don't ask me to do anything outside of the order.
I definitely agree with that. Just like Ernie was mentioning, that I find myself doing the same thing. I'm sitting there, I'm usually one of the first ones to get in the mornings, I'm the last one to leave at night, and you're constantly brainstorming. If something doesn't work, then you've got to get it corrected, because it's got to work. That's your business, that's your income. And I feel that a lot of times with government agencies, that's just the way they do things, and they're not open to change.
And that's like you said, that stifles it, and it's not a benefit for them, because as they stifle business innovation with regulations, that type of thing. Like I said, there's taxes they're not getting. There's new business revenue that they're not getting from business license and that type of thing.
Talking about taxes, are your guys' taxes as business owners really high? Is it something that's like, does it affect your business because you're like, I need to make sure I put this type of money aside for tax?
Well, for me personally, it is, just because, depending on whether you're married, you're not married, the structure of your business, if you're a corporation, if you're a partnership, sole proprietor, that does make sense. But I know for myself, even though we write off the expenses that you're able to write off, I've got to be prepared with at least $5,000 to $6,000 every April to pay for them, and that's literally writing off, even if it's 2 gallons of gasoline on one of your vans. You really have to write off your expenses, because we all work, and I'm sure Ernie does the same. If, as a small business owner, I feel that if you really take into account how much money you take home and how many hours you put into that business a week, you're probably not even making minimum wage.
Right.
Now,
that's tough.
I personally wouldn't change it. I love what I do. I'm not complaining about that. But the point is that if you could save some money on those taxes, I think we would all agree. We all work very hard for our money, so I think we would all like to see something as far as a decrease on our tax rates.
Right. What about as a barbershop owner, Ernie?
Yeah, well, I'm not quite there yet, because like I said, I just have 8 months into it, but I hear that it could be expensive, and they just advised me to, like Junior is saying, try to get your tax write-offs on, accurate as far as like what we purchase for disinfectant stuff that we use, to be clean and stuff, but soon to find out how expensive it'll be.
But even again, kind of going back to the productivity, every moment that you spend tracking expenses because I got to write this off is a cost that's sunk.
It is,
and it takes away from the productivity and the energy that you want to invest in. How can I make things better?
It's definitely like having a separate position from being a business owner, and running like from learning how permits, learning fees, going back and forth with the city. That's definitely another full-time
for
business.
Your employees,
definitely.
What about knowing what you guys know now? If you guys could go back in time, would you guys start? I'll ask you this one first because I know Ernie just started. But Junior, would you like do it all over again? As much as you've gone through all the permits you had to pull, being new to the city.
Well, you know what? I would like to say that I wouldn't, which I think it's probably a benefit that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm very happy with how business is going now. It was very frustrating at the time, but it's worth it. At the end, it's worth it. We're growing. It's a business that we're looking into getting a second food truck, and we're hiring extra staff. So now we're very happy with the results. But I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't know that in the beginning, because I would have probably shied away from it. I mean, if someone tells me you're going to go and purchase a food truck for about $50,000 and it's going to sit in your garage for 2 years, but don't worry, it'll get better, I'd call them crazy and run at that moment.
For sure. What about you, Ernie? Like, you started your business, you said you have 8 months, downtown Fades. How is your experience so far within your 8 months?
It's at times, like I said, you get tired, mentally tired, because you're just trying to think about what you can do different tomorrow. But I don't think I would change anything. I think I would still go for it, because I feel at the end of the day everything's gonna be worth it, because we're growing. It's only been 8 months and we've been growing fast.
From your opinion, Tom, we've learned from Ernie and Junior from having a barbershop and having a taco truck. Do you think government is helping, hurting? Is it invisible?
You know, I think the two things I hear from both of these gentlemen is that the value of their own personal time. And so I would say that government is hurting because they don't recognize and honor the value of the personal time that business owners invest in complying with whatever regulation that they have to be. So, you know, I hear them kind of both say, man, if I could just get the one permit and kind of be done with that, that to me says my time is really valuable here.
It is.
And so I think that would, to a certain extent, that would be the biggest, you know, gotcha in terms of government regulation is this is killing our productivity and the time that we can invest into what we really want to do is, you know, give people service care.
I almost feel like because of technology as well, being that we're in a faster era, I think almost like government should also offer those type of things where it's a lot faster. And if you think about it, if your guys' time is being taken, that's like, we're talking about maybe like a whole day worth of work. If it would be something easier, like an app, like I think that it's time for local government to start looking into those things that make it faster, because I mean, as it is,
all the way to Barstow for $10
to get a permit. Yeah, as it is, we're paying so much. They're paying so much to get these permits out, to pay all these other fees. Wouldn't it be easier to cut on like personal time and do like apps, do what, you know, we're in a social media time. So I think as far as like government, they're getting so, like, they're very old school, in other words.
You know, they're talking about the age of robotics. Maybe we can just kind of
maybe it'll happen.
Robotic, you know, mechanized government. So.
Right. I don't want to run out of time, but something that Ernie, you keep mentioning is you keep thinking about what you can do more, how you can push extra. And something that I've seen, I follow you on social media, downtown_fades. You do merchandise for a barbershop, which I thought is very interesting, and I think it's a good way of promoting something, because if I'm wearing the t-shirt and I'm out, you know, that's kind of like a way of marketing your product. And I think it's very interesting that you've mentioned that throughout the show, it's almost like having a clothing line. What made you do that?
Well, I just see it as another way to get out, you know. We make our own shirts. We don't pay anybody to make our shirts. We buy our own material. We invested in a machine that allows us to make a shirt in maybe about 10, 15 minutes, and I can customize shirts. And to some clients, we give away shirts and we sell them very cheap, and that helps us because people wear them out on the street and they read it, and then they're like, oh, okay, Downtown Fades. Oh, cool, it's a barbershop, and it's a very nice shirt, you know, and it's anything you can do to get out there helps out.
Right. What about you, Junior? Do you see yourself growing in a different way or doing more to get more exposure for your business?
I know we're working on social media. We are on Instagram as 951 Time to Taco, and just what he was saying with the shirts. It's funny because on our shirts, and I showed it to you, we started off with a shirt that just said it's taco time.
Yeah, right.
So, and that came about because when we cater private events, you come in and you knock on someone's door and you get that blank stare like, who the heck are you?
Right.
So now you have that shirt and everyone assumes you're the taco guy at that point, right? You got the it's taco time shirt. Well, it grew to where a lot of our customers now are wanting to actually purchase the shirt. So we end up giving them away because we figure it's gratitude to them, and at the same time it's marketing, it's advertising. They wear it to a family party. They're people they're going to know. They know someone whenever they need a caterer. They're going to call that one cousin, that one aunt who had that shirt, and it's definitely more business for us in that way.
For sure. And then, like I said, I don't want to run out of time. What are your social media, Ernie? Give us your social media, if you have a website. And I know you have like Tuesday specials too or something like that, right?
Yeah, we have, if you follow us on Instagram, is downtown_fades. On there we post weekly or monthly specials because there's people out there, and I remember us growing up, my parents sometimes didn't have money, and there's 5 kids, 3 kids, and it becomes expensive, and our prices are pretty reasonable. They're not very expensive. So we do specials for those families that have a lot of children that can come in and get everybody a haircut, not just a haircut, but a very good quality haircut. So if you follow us on there, you'll see specials, and we have giveaways and giveaway shirts, gels, free haircut.
That's really cool. I actually never thought of that. I grew up with sisters, so it was a little different for us. But for you guys, getting a haircut is important. I can only imagine.
It is.
Especially now.
Right. What about you, Junior? I know they can go to timetotaco.com.
Timetotaco.com, and on Instagram we're at 951 Time to Taco.
Instagram. It's
951 Time to Taco.
Okay, and that's the numbers.
And that's the numbers 951,
gotcha.
And on the 2 it's actually a number 2 as well. So it's time number 2 taco.
Okay.
Well, we learned about how local government is maybe not necessarily helping local businesses from our interview today. Would you say, Tom?
Right, and particularly the issue, I think the emphasis is on local businesses. I think you see government, if you will, really reaching out for the Amazons and FedExes and stuff like that, and you see, councilmen or supervisors, hey, we're trying to bring in, that's not, these are the folks that a small government approach is going to help, because if you have a small government, they just don't have the bandwidth to tamp down these guys' entrepreneurial spirit.
Absolutely. So I want to thank Ernie and Junior for being with us today. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here on U-Turn Radio with us. And also something that I could definitely say is when it's time to go vote for council people or any local government stuff, and you're an entrepreneur, you want to become one, this is so key. To go out and vote and be part of, and also go to the council meetings. How important was that we learned today?
Yeah.
For more U-Turn, make sure you go to uturnradio.com. Thank you. That's all for us today.